Welcome to Unfoolish Investing, everybody. I'm one of your hosts, Victor.
I'm Larry.
This is episode 7.
I gotta tell you, I forgot what episode we were on. So thank you for reminding me. Episode 7. We're getting up there.
And the 7th John Hughes movie, National Lampoon's European Vacation.
Ooh,
You know episode's going to be great if
it's a good one.
that was an amazing one. In this episode, we are going to talk a little bit about one of our core stocks where we tell everybody this is your starting point. And that is Berkshire Hathaway.
Love Berkshire.
And, a little bit of a background into Berkshire. It was originally 2 separate companies. I'm not sure if you were aware of that. Berkshire Fine and Hathaway Manufacturing.
I did not know that.
Yeah, and they were merged in 1955, and they combined the company, and they struggled in the textile industry, which was on the decline when Buffett became involved. So if you want to think about how did Berkshire and Buffett come together? Well, yeah, we got a struggling textile company, and then comes Warren. Buffett's takeover started by buying shares in Berkshire Hathaway in the early 1960s, prior to me even being alive.
We're going back a ways.
Yeah, we are. He's been doing this a long time. He initially saw it as a good investment opportunity because the company was buying back its own shares at the price Buffett found attractive. And if you kind of look at his mentality and, buying companies, it's always like, what's that price? What's it at? And if it's at the attractive level, that's when it's not when everybody else is going in. It's when he personally thinks it's attractive. However, after a disagreement with management, Buffett decided to take control of the company. So, sort of a hostile takeover. And with that, he kind of shifted the focus. Under Buffett's leadership, Berkshire Hathaway gradually shifted from textiles into, can you guess?
I cannot.
What's one of his core?
I was going to say insurance.
It is insurance. It is insurance. Because if anybody knows Warren, Geico, that's his baby. The purchase of National Indemnity in 1967 marked the beginning of Berkshire's transformation. The company now operates as a holding company for a diverse range of businesses. And it's that reason that we say this has got to be one of your core investments when you're starting out. Jumping on that, let's take a look at, this is an older slide, but you kind of get an idea of the holdings.
I just want to take a second and call out one of my favorite businesses.
Sure,
that's
go for it.
part of the Berkshire Hathaway conglomerate, and that's See's Candies.
It is, and See's does a lot of pop-ups around the holiday season.
Yep.
But so, I agree.
Free gas for See's Candies. Love it. Love See's Candies. Anyway.
Yes, and it's like my favorite is Dairy Queen, which is another Berkshire company, and he bought Dairy Queen because he loved ice cream as a child, and he never wanted the world to ever go without having ice cream available to them. And here's a fun fact. I live in New Hampshire, just in case anybody was wondering. I live not too far from the busiest Dairy Queen in the entire country.
Oh, really?
Yes.
I don't know.
Fun New Hampshire fact. We have all this delicious ice cream, but the busiest Dairy Queen in the nation is in Manchester, New Hampshire.
Wow. Okay.
Well, let's start off at the top, right? So, right there, Apple. This is sort of an old slide on Apple, I believe. They own somewhere between around 30% now. Could be a little bit less.
400 million shares of Apple.
That seems like a lot.
Yep. 90 billion.
90
Yeah.
billion.
Which it's 28.6% of Berkshire's stock portfolio.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
That's crazy. What's your view on that Apple ownership?
Well, I mean, he just cut it by half. I don't think he cut Apple because he's no longer in love with the company. I think he just saw a good, it's been running up for really years at this point. I think he just saw it as a good opportunity to trim some shares, as the market has really risen, um, and have that cash on hand, to go on one of his legendary sprees if the market happens to decline.
I agree, and I think it's and we've talked a little bit about this in the past, the services section of Apple that I believe that
Yep.
he sees as that stickiness and that reoccurring revenue that continues to grow from 10% to 20% to 30%,
Yep.
as the core reason and not the iPhones. The iPhones
Yeah.
are like that loss leader that kind of like that's just driving people to use and need the other areas of the business that
Yep.
are really generating the majority of the revenue. Um,
Yep.
another company in here that I don't think gets picked out enough is DaVita. Ticker symbol DVA. DaVita is a bit surprising to me to be a Berkshire company, given their typical focus on industries with more predictable cash flows and less regulatory risk.
Hmm.
Um, the healthcare sector, um, particularly a company like DaVita, that operates in such a niche area of the market, adds a lot more complexity, but it's again one of those reasons that I own Berkshire because I wouldn't personally think to go out and buy stock in a niche company like DaVita. And for anybody that's not aware, DaVita is in the healthcare sector, and they specifically focus on kidney care, which again, I'm looking for a kidney care company, but it's good. That's why I'm in Berkshire because I get that exposure.
Yep. You get some of the exposure without a lot of the risk that you would if you bought that stock individually.
And I think right above that, C, correct me if I'm wrong, that is Citigroup.
Mm-hmm.
Again,
Yep.
exposure into the banking world. They're a beast. Who doesn't have a Citi card? Um,
I was like, I don't think I do.
I think I have a couple. And not even on purpose. It's just I feel like it's one of those things that has those little hidden perks that I end up
Hmm.
utilizing. So I have that, but I don't own the stock, but I own Berkshire. And again, it goes into why I own Berkshire. It's because I get a little Citi, I get a little Bank of America. There's a couple things in there. I'm a big baseball fan. I'm not sure about you, Larry.
I am.
I'm not sure
I
if you
didn't know. I couldn't tell by your hat. Yeah.
and being a Boston guy, we have a lot of history. And Berkshire owns a stake in a former Boston franchise. Were you aware of this?
I was. Yeah. It's the Braves, right? The now Atlanta Braves. Yeah.
It is the Braves. And for me, like knowing that being a Berkshire shareholder gets me a stake in the Braves, I'm a big fan of that.
Yeah. Just about 1/2 of 1% of the Braves.
But it's that uniqueness. And again, it's that area that I don't feel like enough people talk about when they talk about Berkshire. I feel like every time people talk about Berkshire, you hear Apple. It's always Apple. Oh,
Hmm.
look at how much they own Apple. Look at how much they sold to Apple. No one's talking about the Atlanta Braves holdings.
That's true.
Uh, Beauty care. they recently got into it. Could you share with us the numbers on Ulta?
Yeah, so they recently opened a position in Ulta. It's 690,000 shares. It comes out to about $260 million. Um, Somehow, $260 million is only 0.1% of the total Berkshire holdings. Um, but obviously, they see some value there. And it wouldn't shock me if, um, they increase that stake over time, especially going in, like, I think beauty is kind of a seasonal um, a seasonal business. I think this is a good season to start opening some positions.
Yeah, and I think that like Ulta, I don't have much hair, so I'm not big into the hair business. Um, but the more I've learned about the company after Berkshire going into it, I find out that they have salons in some of them that I
I
wasn't
didn't know
aware.
that.
Yeah, I did not know that either until I started doing a deep dive and
Yeah.
found out that like they go a lot more into the beauty world than just makeup. And it's
Hmm.
like some of them have salons in different aspects. And I'm like, okay. I was like, reoccurring customers, maybe they're coming in for one thing, they're getting a bunch of other stuff on the way out. I could
Yeah.
see I could see the attractiveness.
Yeah. I don't think Berkshire really buys everything all at once. So to me, I see this as the beginning of a kind of like Occidental Petroleum. They didn't buy all that stock all at once. They've built that up over a period of years. Um, it wouldn't shock me that especially if the price stays attractive to them, that they're just going to keep adding to it.
Yeah, yeah. I'm hopeful on that because the more I've learned about the business, I was considering opening up a separate position, but
Hmm.
I'm going to stick with my Berkshire position for right now.
Yep,
Um, Electric cars. You know where I'm going with this?
I do. You're not going to call me out for the Neo call. It's not that.
It is not Neo. It is not Neo, though that was a great call at the time. We'll discuss that in another episode. But Larry is the electric car whisperer. Um, I'm going with BYD. Build your dreams. They are a Chinese company. They have become a global leader in EVs. They have surpassed even Tesla in terms of EV sales. And do you know the core reason Berkshire is in?
I don't. I know that the cars are much cheaper than what Tesla's selling, and by cheaper I mean inexpensive. I'm not talking about the build quality. Um, like you said, they're like really eating Tesla's lunch in the Chinese market.
Well, the core driver behind Berkshire's investment in BYD was the late Charlie Munger.
Um,
Warren Buffett's longtime business partner, Charlie was so impressed with the founder, and I'm going to murder the guy's name, Wayne Chonfu, who he described. Are you ready for Charlie's description of this guy?
let's hear it.
He considered him a merger of Thomas Edison and Jack Welch from the
Wow.
old GE days.
Yeah, yep. Legendary. Both of them.
Charlie thought Wang Tron Fu was a brilliant engineer and a top tier business manager. He believed in BYD's potential, particularly in the EV sector and battery sectors. And he
Mhm.
was the pivotal role in convincing Warren to make that investment in BYD.
Wow.
And
I
again,
mean,
it was Warren's decision because Warren was the boss, but it was Charlie that was that key driver. And I feel like that trusted champion that Warren trusted
mhm.
all these years and was like, you know what? If you believe that this is the right way to go, he went that direction.
Yeah, it's
And
paying off.
it is. I mean, BYD is an absolute beast. I think when they initially got into it, it was basically pennies to where it is now.
Yeah,
But yeah, it's, and again, I can't say it enough. It's that exposure into companies that you might not think of investing in yourself, or might not be willing to take that risk to be like, you know what? I'm going to invest in a Chinese EV manufacturer, Larry, named Neo, and roll
yeah,
that die as well. Victor's on the other side going, you're crazy. Like, who would do that?
yeah,
10x, 20x later. But yeah, it's being willing to take that risk. And if you're on the more conservative side around these type of things at times, like I tend to be, Berkshire gives you that exposure.
yeah. So just to give you the almost exact numbers, they bought all their shares in 2008 at less than $1. It's at like $29. Oh, so they've almost 30x BYD.
It's just insane. And that was in 2008 when the entire economy was collapsing
It
around
was in
them.
shambles. Yeah,
Yes, yeah. I'm not sure if everybody remembers.
yeah,
There was a housing crisis.
absolute shambles. And that's when Warren Buffett called up Bank of America and said, "I will give you a ton of money for stock and warrants at X price," which is why Berkshire still has such a large position in Bank of America to this day.
And I think that comes into the leverage that a company like Berkshire Hathaway has, where when they see really bad times and people like question, like, why do they have so much cash on their balance sheet, which right now I think is north of 200 to 250 billion.
Yep.
It's because when times get hard, they can go in and do radical moves with companies, and in your case, Bank of America, that will just pay dividends for decades.
Yep.
Um,
And could have saved the U.S. economy because the economy was going down the tubes and banks were failing left and right
yeah, he
for
bet
people that might not have been of age when that occurred.
100%. He bet big on. He's a big fan of betting big on America,
Yep.
um, and that's what he did there. Um, Another holding that is near and dear to me that Berkshire also owns, and I also own separately, which is Liberty Sirius XM. And people are like, why would anybody own that?
You love that stock.
I that may be one of my oldest. It's not my oldest, but might be one of my oldest holdings.
Mm.
Um, you know, I've loved it from the Mel Kamazan days to today, and I continue to love it. And some people are like, don't fall in love with the company that you invest in, and I'm like, I try not to, but I failed here. And Liberty Sirius XM controls the satellite radio giant, um, that everybody's aware of, home of Howard Stern, home of sports, live music, you name it. And SiriusXM really has carved out a niche for itself in the audio entertainment space. They may not be as large as a streamer, but their devices are inside every automobile that comes off of the assembly line, made in this country, sold every day. So if you're buying a new car, unless it's, I'm not sure about Tesla, but I'm pretty positive every other car that comes out is coming out with a Sirius XM radio inside of it with a free subscription. And they even just dropped a new free tier to get more into the streaming world as they continue to try and evolve themselves. But any thoughts into Sirius XM, or you ready to jump on?
I don't really have much to say on the stock. Um, we recently got a new Highlander that has XM in it. And I got to tell you, the reception is not great. If you don't have reception, you just have no signal and you've got no radio. Um, I think maybe if you live not in a mountainous, hilly, tree-covered area, you probably have a better experience. But so far, mixed reviews for me.
Now, we've talked an awful lot about companies that Berkshire has bought stakes into.
Yep.
Whether or not it's Apple, Citigroup, Bank of America, Coke. There's so many of them out there. I don't think we've talked enough about the actual companies that Berkshire owns. They don't own a stake in them.
Okay.
They own them outright. And the number one, and I mentioned it earlier on in the list, with an estimated annual revenue of $35 billion. That's Geico. And, that's the insurance segment. It's insanely profitable underwriting. I cannot say enough great things about Geico. It's probably one of the largest, most profitable auto insurers in the entire United States. It's aggressive marketing. The Gecko.
Yep.
Who hasn't seen the Gecko? And it has been the cornerstone of Berkshire since, do you know what year?
I don't. Off the top of my head, I don't.
1996.
Okay.
So before, most people out there even had any sort of smartish phone device, or they were probably on AOL getting the free minutes of dial-up, right? Geico was out there selling you car insurance, selling you home insurance online. What are your thoughts on Geico?
Oh, I think they're one of the two big insurers, especially auto insurance. I think them and Progressive are probably the two biggest in the country. I think they've also been ramping up their data the last couple of years. I think Geico now you can get the fob that you plug into your car and get a tailored quote. I know Progressive was doing that. I think Geico is doing it too now. I think they've come a long way. I think before they were just kind of set in their ways of this is how we've always done insurance, and they've changed that the last 3 or 4 years. So I think they certainly got a good foundation being owned by Berkshire, very stable. Probably one of the linchpins of their ownings.
And the second company I want to talk about, and it's one of those things that I loved as a kid, and I've never owned straight out, but I own it through Berkshire, and Warren's always loved this sector. Love this sector. Do you know where I'm going?
I'm not sure.
BNSF.
Oh, we're going.
Railways.
This is railroads. Yeah.
Yes, BNSF. For me, I loved trains as a kid. It's one of the largest freight railroads in North America. It's essential for transporting goods across the U.S., making it critical to supply chains. So
Yep.
when you see these trains moving, That's Berkshire Hathaway making it happen. And Berkshire acquired BNSF in 2010 for $44 billion.
Wow.
$44 billion. Um, what do you think Berk BNSF pulls in a year for that?
I couldn't even wager a guess.
25 billion.
So they bought it for less than 2 years revenue.
Correct. They bought it, and
Wow.
right now they're making 25 billion a year off of
Wow.
it. And again, it's America's backbone. Like,
Yep.
if you want to say, like, how does America get things moving across?
Yep.
The backbone of our country is the railway freight system, and
Yep.
BNSF, Berkshire Hathaway, Warren Buffett is making it happen.
And, kind of on that same to that same point about moving goods all over the place. In this country, it's railroads and trucking. That's what keeps the economy moving. And Berkshire owns all of the pilot travel centers, which is where all the trucks that are driving goods to and fro stop and get gas, or take a shower, or buy food, or whatever. So every time you stop at a pilot, you are stopping at a Berkshire Hathaway owned facility.
That's awesome. I mean, like, it just kind of makes you feel good as an American knowing that Warren, like, this is how he's thinking. This is how he's thinking. He's like, pilot, BNSF. It's like keeping America going.
Yep. Yep.
Do you know what their number 3 on the list that I'm going for? This one is in the energy sector, which might be giving it away. Because it's named after the company, Berkshire Hathaway Energy.
Wow. How did I not get that one?
I know. It's crazy that they just named it Berkshire Hathaway Energy,
Yep.
not like Geico.
Marketing department might not be the best, but at least you know exactly where it is. Berkshire Hathaway Energy.
It's true. And this segment of Berkshire brings in roughly 22 to 23 billion dollars a year for Berkshire.
Wow.
And just to go sum up, the top 3 companies are right now bringing in $75 billion a year, and we haven't even gotten into investments.
So just to recap, it's Geico's number 1, BNSF number 2, and then Berkshire Energy. 3?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. And Berkshire Energy is a utility company with investments in renewable energy. They operate in the US, Canada, and the UK. And they're fundamentally focused on sustainable energy solutions, including wind and solar. That company is one of the leaders in renewable energy. So if you're somebody that's looking to invest in green energy, like I think we've talked about in the past, maybe not on the podcast yet, but there are definitely certain companies out there that we may be interested in or already buying into. Berkshire, again, gives you that exposure.
Yep, it really is its own index between the holdings of its investments and the companies that comprise the bigger Berkshire company overall.
And number 4, and now we have a massive drop off. We're having a massive drop off.
Mm-hmm.
And this is like going deep because I feel like most people, I'm probably even going to murder the name. Lubrizol. Are you familiar with Lubrizol?
I am not.
It's a specialty
chemicals, yeah.
and additive contribute to Berkshire's industrial product segment. They bring in roughly $7 billion a year, and it's probably not that household name that you're thinking of when you're looking in your cabinet, whether or not in the bathroom or in the kitchen. But
Yep.
its products are in everyday items from car engines to skincare products. And being a high performance chemical company, you know, you're providing all of these different ingredients to all these other makers. And although we may
Very
not ever,
diversified.
yeah, and again, I've like, I would never have thought to buy into a company like that. And I
Right, you
just,
probably wouldn't if it was just an individual stock. You might be more hesitant.
and now I'm just going to skip around. And I do want to talk a little bit about your favorite, See's Candies.
Let's go See's Candies.
The quality of See's
Oh
Candies
man.
is absolutely phenomenal. They're so delicious. It's been around for decades. They're small, but it's an example of how Berkshire values strong brands with dedicated followings. I don't
Yep.
want to say it's makes it a sweet addition, pun intended,
Mhm. Yeah.
but
Incoming dad joke.
yeah, incoming dad joke. Um, it's a sweet addition to the portfolio. Um, you know, what can you say? What can you say about See's Candies other than people tend to love it, and I think that that's why Berkshire ended up buying them.
Yeah, they have a very dedicated following. I mean, there's a lot of people that make an annual trek to get See's Candies, or they order See's Candies for all their family and friends around the holidays. Um, I think it's just one of those beloved, longtime brands. To your point about Berkshire loving um, some of those well-known brands.
And although C's may only contribute roughly, how much do you think they contribute to Berkshire's bottom line each year?
Few hundred million.
500 million, yeah, roughly 500 million. But it's that loyal following
Yep.
that kind of is the reason why they bought them. And just quickly jumping through a couple more. You going out, you need to paint your house.
No.
What do you buy?
You have to buy Benjamin Moore.
You have to buy
The
Benjamin
best of the
Moore.
best.
And again, another Berkshire brand. Most people are probably unaware that Benjamin Moore, one of the most trusted names by homeowners and professionals, is a Berkshire Hathaway brand. Like, they're not going anywhere. People are like, oh, how do they stick around? They're never going anywhere.
Yep. Yep. But it's a better product too, at least in my opinion. I think it's much better than the stuff you can get at Home Depot or Lowe's. Um,
Agreed.
you
And
know,
I think it's that niche and that quality that Benjamin Moore puts out that keeps it, you know,
yeah, yeah. I think they have a loyal following of independent tradespeople that will only buy Benjamin Moore for their business.
fun fact, when we painted our house, we asked the painter, what's the most popular color being utilized? And they're like, Benjamin Moore Revere Pewter. And we're like, paint the entire house that. But it
There
goes
you go.
into, and that's what we did. But yeah, it just goes into, there's usually sold in small paint stores
Hmm.
or where professionals end up going, usually not in big box retailers,
Yep.
uh, which tells you how they sell and how it's not as mass, you know, produced out
Yep.
there. Another company that Berkshire owns that I'm never ever going to be able to use, NetJets. Were you aware that NetJets was a Berkshire Hathaway company?
Had no idea.
They are absolutely the epitome of luxury travel,
Yeah.
which is so far away from anything that I'm ever going to utilize. It's the go-to for anybody that is in private aviation. So, like, think Taylor Swift. If she didn't own her own fleet of Lear jets, she would probably use a NetJet because it's cheaper for people of that level of wealth to own a fractional share of these planes and you rent these planes than it is for them to actually buy them and
Yeah.
have to keep up with the maintenance.
Yep.
We've talked about Dairy Queen. What's everybody's favorite battery?
Duracell.
Duracell. Another top brand.
Yep. Yep. One of the two big players in batteries.
And like when you're looking to power your remote control or your flashlight, I'm reaching for Duracell. And I'm not reaching because I think it's the best, but secretly I buy a lot of brands that my money's already invested in other places.
Mm-hmm.
So if I'm buying into Berkshire, I'm going to buy Duracell because I know that that's just helping benefit my other bottom line.
Yep.
Ever go to a party at someone's house, Larry, that is selling
Yes, I have.
that is
Oh, Pampered Chef.
Pampered Chef?
Yep. There we go.
Again,
Yep.
who knew Berkshire owns Pampered Chef? It's just, it's amazing the diversity
Yep.
of
It's the stuff you just wouldn't think of.
it's
that
like
They own everything. They've got their fingers in everything.
I mean, it's a legacy of success.
Mm-hmm.
Is it not?
Yeah, it's true. It's true.
I mean, through all of these companies, Berkshire has turned a textile company that is going out of business, right? Going out of business in the 60s and built an empire that spans industries from insurance to transportation, energy to consumer goods.
Yep. And they're still in textiles. So, Fruit of the Loom.
I forgot Fruit of the Loom.
They're still in Fruit of the Loom when you need t-shirts, socks, whatever. That's Berkshire.
And it's that leadership that Buffett and the late Charlie Munger have provided, in my opinion, through all these years. And I also feel like they have set the company up for a true succession plan by putting people in place that will lead it into the next century.
Totally agree. Now, the question is Berkshire, have they become the ham sandwich company? I personally say no, because they're so diversified. You have to know something about so many different things. It's not like Chipotle where it's like, okay, I need to know, kind of like Tex-Mex fast casual supply chain. This is my niche. They're just so big and they're in so many different industries.
Yeah, and I think that the reason it isn't because I get that Warren's running the top. I'm not 100% sure if he's still running as much as the day-to-day.
Mm-hmm.
But he's got key executives from Ajit Jain, which I think I might have just ruined his name, to Greg Abel,
Yep.
to Matt Rose, who runs the BNSF brand, if in case anybody was curious. Greg Abel runs the Berkshire Hathaway energy section. Ajit runs the Berkshire Hathaway reinsurance group. To what you just mentioned with Fruit of the Loom, Richie Woodworth, he's running that section. He's really put players in place for each brand segment. So, I mean, is it a ham sandwich? I don't think it is, because I think it's so complex that
Yeah.
you just need to continue to grow and cultivate that core team of leaders in those different sections
Yeah.
for generations to come. And what I love is none of them leave.
It's true. They're all long tenure. Yeah. They're all very long tenure.
I mean, I think I can't think of anybody that's not a company that's going to, when Warren's time is up, is going to go looking for a new CEO. They already have
No. They've got that lined up, and I think they've had that lined up for a long time.
Yeah, I mean, and it's it could be a battle on who gets it, but again, I'm not sure it will be, because my hope is, from what I understand, and it could be, I'm not on the inside. Just gonna tell everybody that. Uh, um, that I think that where Warren and Charlie had each other, I think Ajit, Greg, Matt, even Richie are going to back each other up. They're going to run decisions off of one another.
Yeah.
They're not just going to be like, it's my call, I'm the new boss. I just don't see that happening, because it's such a culture
Yep.
that they've all grown together, that it's like this trust that I don't see them going rogue.
Yeah, I would agree with you. I feel like the opposite of what's happening at Paramount, where you've got multiple like co-CEOs, and they're all kind of jockeying for who's going to be the number one. I do think it's going to be a company. Berkshire is going to be a company that's run by a small committee.
And with that said, I just want to thank everybody for coming down this road of Berkshire Hathaway with us. It's been amazing to talk about everything that they've built, everything that they've buy into, all the companies that they continue to grow. And I'll leave you with my kid's favorite that a lot of people aren't fond of. Well, I should say a lot of kids are fond of it. Squishamallows. They own the Squishamallow brand, which I feel like just lines right up with C's Candies as industry leader. What are your final thoughts on Berkshire, Larry?
It's just so diversified. I mean, I think that's part of why we have it as one of our three pillars of investing before you start getting into individual stocks, VOO, QQQ, and Berkshire. Um, for all the companies they own, we didn't go over the whole list. If, check out their website, berkshirehathaway.com. They have a whole list of all their owned companies. And, we didn't get through the entire list of the stocks that they own, which you can easily look that up online if you need to. Tons of great companies that they own. They're just so diversified. They've been so well run for so many years. It's essentially its own index fund at this point. And we didn't really talk about buybacks. They buy back a ton of their own stock. They increase the value for their shareholders every time they buy back their own stock. So if you don't own it, buy it. If you buy it, if you own it, keep buying it. If you think about selling it, don't.
Agreed. All phenomenal, unfoolish investing points. And before we go today, Larry, I just wanted to bring up one thing from our previous episode. and that's the worst CEO list
Ooh,
in Boeing. And we were discussing Boeing, and then
yes.
over the weekend, NASA must have listened to our list because they were like, there is no chance we are allowing our two astronauts to take that Boeing capsule back to Earth. We don't trust it.
It's so bad that, NASA basically said the capsule is so bad that they're going to come home in February of next year, 2025. So an 8-day mission is now going to be like a 7 or 8 month mission. Um, I it just keeps getting worse. I guess it can always get worse. I guess that's the lesson, is it can always get worse.
It can, and I just had to bring that in because
Yeah,
I was like, we talked about how bad Boeing was and how bad Calhoun was, and then he left, and the new guy
yeah.
came in, and it just continues to spiral out of control. No, no, we don't trust you to bring this back. Elon, Elon, SpaceX, can you get it done?
I,
Do not
it's
buy
it
Boeing
is
stock.
a masterclass in how to destroy, like, brand destruction. So you think of Berkshire Hathaway and all the brands that they own and how well regarded all of them are, pretty much. Um, they took a great brand in Boeing that basically had the market cornered and had it cornered for a long time. It's just them and Airbus. Um, and basically just they figured out a way to ruin the brand integrity of Boeing.
Couldn't have said it better myself. And with that said, I hope everybody enjoyed this episode. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe. Stay unfoolish.